Hi, everyone. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Oh, you maybe. Yeah, can. Hi, everyone. I think you guys has been a great session, and this is like number 3 for you guys already. So I hope that you guys are enjoying this sea dreaming. I'm your moderator for this session. My name is Desmond. I'm from SIM, and today we'll have a great time of talking about this the power of data security, which is in everybody's mind. Okay, so before I talk about the speaker, okay, let me just remind everyone that you can use this live Q&A feature on the touch air button to submit your questions, and then later we will review it when we have time in the last 10 minutes of the questions. Okay, so let me try to present my presenter today. Her name is Khyati Mehta. She's a program analyst from Cognizant. Okay, she have a Salesforce marketing champion belt on her end, and she's also a Salesforce woman in tech in Calcutta. So she's in India itself. Okay, so what happened was that she has a blog itself that is talk about all about Salesforce itself, and also she did an India first podcast that is called Salesforce Offbeat with Khyati. Okay, Khyati has always been a very passionate for people for sharing knowledge and giving back, and uplifting people is a motto itself. So she has been doing a lot of community work, helping underprivileged kids as well. So one thing I was asking Khyati, she says that this is something that everybody should take note. Her Trailblazer answer ranking, right, is ranked number 7. Okay, that is 7 rank. Okay, that means there's only 6 people in front of him in the Trailblazer. So with not further ado, let me introduce Khyati to you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, according to your time zone. Welcome to Sea Dreaming. First of all, thanks to all the sponsors and putting this together. My name is Khyati Mehta. I'm working as a Salesforce developer at Cognizant Technology Solutions. I live in Kolkata, India. I am also a proud marketing champion, and I also lead Salesforce Women in Tech Group, Kolkata. I was also recently featured on Salesforce blog for my outreach work. You can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn, and let's connect and learn together.
Today, the topic I'm going to speak upon is the power of data security. So, what is data security? Salesforce data security deals with the security or sharing settings of data and visibility between users or group of users across the organization. Data security is an essential part of every organization. Salesforce provides a strong security model to ensure security. To provide a security model that satisfies numerous, unique, real world business cases, Salesforce provides a comprehensive and flexible data security model to secure data at different levels. Salesforce also provides sharing tools to open up and allow secure access to data based on business needs. So let's just understand the basics first. Let's understand how the Salesforce architecture is built and how we can leverage the security that has been provided to us. There are 3 key constructs related to data in Salesforce. The first is objects, the second is fields, and the third is records. Objects are similar to tables in databases. Fields are similar to columns of the table, and records are similar to rows of data inside the table. As you can see in the picture, we have objects over here. Then we have fields over here. And then these are the records. So Salesforce uses object level, field level, and record level security to secure access to object, field, and individual records. Now there's something called level of data access. The data access on Salesforce is configured in 4 levels. The first one is organization level, the second is object level, the third is field level, and the fourth is record level. So let's understand one by one on what it does. So if you want to have the access to an organization, these accesses can be restricted by 4 means. The first is allowing only authorized users to access Salesforce. Now, when we create users, we have to understand certain things that comes under user management. Now, what is a user? A user is anyone who logs into Salesforce. Users can be your employees in the organization. Now, every user in Salesforce has a user account. The user account identifies the user, and the account settings determine what features and records the user can access. Each user account contains usernames, which is unique across all Salesforce organizations, also contain user licenses, which determines which features the users can access in Salesforce. For example, you can allow user access to standard Salesforce features and chatter with the standard Salesforce license. But if you want to grant a user access to only some features in Salesforce, you have a host of licenses to choose from. Then there is also something called profiles that determines what users can do in Salesforce. And then there's something called roles that determines what users can see in Salesforce. Note, user records in Salesforce can't be deleted. Once created, it will not be deleted. It can only be deactivated or frozen. The second is setting password policies. Now you can specify an amount of time before all users' passwords expire and the level of complexity required for passwords. You can make settings such that the passwords expire for all users in your org except for users with password never expire permission after specified days. The third is restricting IP ranges for users. Now it helps limit the IP addresses from which users can log in. Now using trusted IP ranges, you can limit your users' ability to log in only when they are in the office. Now when your users log in from an IP address within the specified range, that is your office, then they gain access to your org without requiring activation. If, in case, they attempt to log in from outside the trusted range, that is, if they try to log in from outside the office, they will be asked for two-factor authentication. They will be asked to enter a code sent to their mobile device. You can also set IP restrictions on individual user profiles. The last one under organization level security is restricting login hours for users. Now this helps limiting the times at which users can log in. We can basically specify or limit the hours when users can log in depending on their profile. For example, if we don't want our employees with support profile to log in during weekends. Now this is possible by setting login hours for profiles. So these are the 4 ways from which we can restrict the access to any organization. The second under security is object level security. Salesforce object level security provides the simplest way to control data access. It prevents a user or group of users from creating, viewing, editing, or deleting any records of an object by setting permissions on that object. Now, there are two ways of setting object permissions. First is profiles, the second is permission sets. It determines the objects a user can access and the permissions a user has on any object record. Object level security is determined by a profile assigned to a particular user. Profile controls objects that a user can see and what they can do on these objects. These settings are called CRED: create, read, edit, and delete. Now, permission sets provides additional permissions and access settings to user. As you can see over here in the picture, the first step is to select an object. Now, once you select an object, the second is you can set the permissions over here. Once you are done with the permissions, you can also assign these permission sets to user and can leverage object level security in your org. The third level of security is field level security. A field level security in Salesforce controls whether a user can see, edit, or delete the value for a particular field on an object. Unlike page layouts, which only control the visibility of the field on detail and edit pages of an object. So field level security secures the visibility of fields in any part of the app, including related lists, list views, reports, and search results. Field level security can be applied to multiple fields on a single profile or permission set and can also be applied to a single field on all profiles. So this is how you can leverage field level security or all you need to do is go to the particular profile and then select the object. Once you select under field level security, you can set CRUD access for each field in the object. Always remember, field level security can only restrict access, it cannot grant it. Let's give an example and understand how field level security works. Now, for example, support profile has read access on contact object, and you provide read and edit access to a field on the contact object. Users with the support profile will still only have read access. However, if support profile has read and edit permissions on the contact object and read only field permissions on a field in the contact object, then users assigned to support profile will only have read access to that particular field. So this is how field level security works, and one can leverage the field level security that is provided by Salesforce. The last type is record level security. Now, under record level security, there are 4 different pillars that control record level sharing. The first is organization wide defaults, widely known as OWDs. The second is role hierarchy. The third is sharing rules. And the fourth is manual sharing. The visibility opens up as we go up step by step. So let's understand and on how these levels works. So before starting any of the levels, let's take an use case and understand how it does. Maria is an experienced leader who has recently joined ABC Corp as a sales executive. She also has a marketing background and reports directly to the CEO. She needs access to various objects and apps in Salesforce. This graphic illustrates the organization structure. Now you can see the organization structure over here. With just object level access and field level access, Maria can only access records she owns. That is, the records that are created by her. But if you look at the organization structure, she reports to Mark, who is the CEO of the company and has 2 sales reps Wendy and Bob reporting to her. Now, there comes the first step in the picture, which is organization wide defaults or organization wide sharing, widely known as OWD. Now, these sharing settings determine the baseline level of access for all records of an object. Organization widely defaults can never grant users more access than they have through their object's permissions. Organization-wide defaults should be most restrictive in record level security because other record level security implementations can only grant additional accesses. They cannot restrict the access of records provided by organization-wide defaults. In Salesforce, records have a field called owner ID that points to a real user. Owners of records are usually people who created the record and have full CRUD access to it. CRUD as in create, read, update, and delete. Salesforce provides other ways to automatically assign ownership to users and to transfer ownership from one user to another user. Now, when you see over here, there are three settings that are mentioned under organization wide defaults. So organization-wide defaults can be set to any of the three levels. The first is public read and write. So if you choose public read and write, then all users can view, edit, and report on all records. The second is public read only. So if you choose public read only, all users can view and report on records, but not edit them. Only the owner and users above that role in the hierarchy can edit those records. The third is private. If you choose private, only the record owner and users above that role in the hierarchy can view, edit, and report on those records. The second type under record level security is role hierarchy. Typically, in an organization, different job roles have different record access requirements. Normally, job roles are sorted in a hierarchical level. That is, users with a higher role should have access to records to which users in lower roles have access. This is how the architecture is usually built in an organization. But note that a role hierarchy rarely maps to an org chart. It really maps hierarchies of data access. Salesforce provides an easy way to share records with managers and represent a role hierarchy. To use the sharing rule, an admin must first add the user to a role and grant access. In our case, the admin needs to add Maria to the appropriate role within Maria's user records. So this is how role hierarchy works. The third one is sharing rules. Hierarchy-based sharing only works for sharing upward and in a vertical direction. What if we want to share laterally? For example, what if we want to share records that Maria owns with her peers in the service executive teams? Now, this is where sharing rules comes in. Sharing rules provides a way to share records laterally and in an ad hoc fashion via public groups. Now, there are two types of sharing rules. The first is ownership-based sharing rules. These basically lets admins share records based on role and subordinate, and public group ownership. For example, we can share all the records owned by anyone in a sales executive role with everyone in a service executive role. Similarly, we can share all the records owned by the sales executive and their subordinates and with others as well. So this is how ownership-based sharing rules work. So if you can see over here, you can just select based on the record owner and then select owners of the records. Once you do that, you can also select users to share with. And this is how you can set ownership based sharing rules in your org. The second type is criteria based sharing rules. These basically let users access records based on the value of a field in a record, irrespective of who owns the records. For example, if Maria wants to meet with all accounts in San Francisco, an admin might set a criteria based sharing rule to share with Maria all accounts whose billing city in San Francisco. So over here, you can just select based on criteria instead of based on record owner, and then enter the criteria that you want to choose. For this example, we want to choose that the billing city should be equal to San Francisco. And this is how you set up criteria based sharing rule in your org. The last type is manual sharing. Manual sharing provides a mechanism to share individual records with others. Now, this permission is accessed through sharing button on the record detail pages and lets end users share individual record with others. Manual sharing is used to handle exception cases where access to a particular record needs to be given to a specific user. There is a sharing button on the records page. This is used to provide manual sharing. In Salesforce manual sharing, records are shared individually with other users by using the share button on the record. Sometimes it is not possible to define a consistent group of users who need access to a particular record. That is where manual sharing comes in. Salesforce manual sharing allows the users to share the records to users who would not have access to the record in any other way. Now, only these four users can share the record. The first is record owner. The second is a user in a role above the owner in the role hierarchy. The third is users granted full access to record. And the fourth and the last one is administrator. Note, this is only available if the OWD, that are organization-wide defaults, is private or public read only. Because otherwise, say if it is public read or write, you wouldn't need it. So this was all. I tried to cover everything that is in the Salesforce security architecture and would help you to understand it deep dive. So this is how Salesforce security is built. Hope this was helpful to you all. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Khyati, for that presentation. Wow, it's really in depth and it really shows so much things about the sharing rules that we as Salesforce we need to actually govern as well. So I'm looking at the questions of the Q&A. There were a few questions that was posted. Okay, let's try to answer them. Okay, so I think first question someone posted and asked about login hours. Okay, login hours when we implement in Salesforce, is it going to follow the org level hours which we have on our company info page, or the user level hours which we have in the user profile level? So is it based on the company or based on the user?
Okay, so always remember then when it comes to login hours are based upon profiles. So whenever we implement it in Salesforce, it will be going to follow the user level hours which we have at the user profile level and not the company's one.
Okay, so yeah, so it's really clear of the answer is based on that. Okay, next, let's go up and let me see what's the next question. Let me see. Okay, can we share a record based on a few of a child record that is possible? That because is that possible using Apex? Because I think in the sharing rule there is no such criteria for child record. Yeah.
Yes, you're correct. There is no such criteria in sharing rule to share the records directly with the child, like for child record. But yes, you can do this via Apex sharing. So that would help you do that.
Nice. Okay, so the Apex sharing can actually do the sharing record itself. So
Yes.
another question that pops up is field level security matters if users have OWD public read write. Is that uh, yeah?
Yes, you're
Does that
correct.
matter?
Yeah, the question is correct that the field level security will only matter if a user will have organization by default set as public read or write.
All right. Okay. So there are three more questions that was available. So I think one question is if a user doesn't use access to a specific record type, would they able to see records that are of that record type?
Oh yes, record type basically controls only visibility of record on the UI, but not its access to users. So if
I
user
see.
does not have access to record type, then user will not have been be able to create records for that record type using
Okay.
any UI. So,
Cool.
but a user will be able to see records if they have appropriate permission to do so.
Okay. So the rules and the permission itself actually play in place
Yes.
very importantly when we do our sharing rules. Okay. So there is a custom profiles and there's a standard profiles. Is can we maybe you want to talk about that on on this conversation as well since you're on this sharing.
Yeah, so standard profiles are basically more like the read-only standard user, marketing user. So these are, the standard profiles, the contract manager as well, and the only one that everyone knows, which is system administrator. So these are certain standard profiles.
Okay. So I guess the presentation itself didn't really talk much about permission set and permission group. Maybe you want to explain to the crowd here a little bit more of that, or do you have any info on that?
Yes, so permission sets are basically a collection of settings and permissions that basically gives users access to various tools and functions. Now, these can also extend users' functional access without, changing their profiles. So
Cool.
you can basically create permission sets to grant access among maybe a group of users, like logically grouping of users, regardless of what their primary job function is. I'll just give you an example. Uh, let's say we have several users who must delete and transfer leads. So we can basically create a permission set based on the tasks that these users must perform and include the permission set within the groups based on the job functions. So this is how permission set works.
Okay, so a question just came in as well, Kathy. He says that when is it a right time to use to create permission set versus using creating a profile? I mean, just came in. The question just came in. So
Okay.
yeah, maybe you want to take some time to do you know like how to weigh
So could
these
you
two?
repeat the question? I couldn't get the question.
Okay, when is the right time to create a permission set versus just creating a new profile?
Okay. So there is no such right time, but yes, you would need to understand the difference between the permission sets and profiles, so as to understand which you want to use on your use case, on your business scenario. So the difference between permission sets and a profile is uh, every single user will have only one profile, but when you use permission sets, a user will have multiple permission sets and a zero permission set.
Yeah.
So this is
So.
where
mm.
you can think what you need to use.
Okay, so I maybe I'll share a little bit on that as well because I did use permission set with Salesforce Scheduler recently. So
Mhm.
one of the things that you need to know that certain functions, right, that you want to create in a permission set, these are the functions that you want to extend out. Now, when I say extend out, meaning that you are granting permission on a particular app to extend out to this group of users that are being able to use it. So you don't create a profile for them because as what Katie said, you can only have one profile, but you can be tagged into multiple permission sets for that rule that is there. Katie, am I right? Or yeah,
Yes, you're absolutely
yeah.
absolutely correct. As I
Okay.
mentioned, that you can have only one profile. So it totally depends on what your use case is and how you want to go through that.
All right. That was great. We have clipped almost, I think we clipped all the questions that was in the chat itself, and we have 8 minutes remaining. So, any questions that you all still want to post to Katie to ask about this data security itself? Oh,
Okay.
someone put something in the forum. Let me see what they
Even
put.
I want to thank all of you. I see the chats that it was a wonderful session. I want to thank all of you to be like you're here and you love the session. I hope you guys took back, the session with you. So, in case you have any doubts or anything, you can connect with me anytime you want.
Yeah, I think
So
Katie.
we have 8 minutes left, so maybe we can connect over here as well.
Yeah. Okay. So Katie has put in her Twitter link and also her LinkedIn profile, so you can in a discussion forum you can link up with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we had a great session here, and thank you, Katie, for all the infos on this. I and think so. Before everybody, let's say, exit, just a note that please note that we are having this, as you can score points in our exhibition booth and also connect with new friends and engage them in this live Q&A session. You can talk to them and connect to them in this meeting hub itself. And also after this session, please remember to complete the survey for each session. Then you earn gamification points by submitting your survey as well. So at the end of the second day, we actually have some prizes for those who have scored the highest points and all that stuff. Okay, so thank you, Katie, for this
Thank you
session.
so
We really
much.
had benefited a lot. I think the crowd has really learned so much about. They are very basic things that we need to
Security
make
is
sure that
such a, yeah, as I
yeah,
was
and
saying,
it is very
security is such a
essential.
big. Okay.
Yeah.
As I was saying, that security is such a big and a vast topic, and it's really difficult to, present that topic within a certain limited of time. But yes, I tried my best to cover all the topics with the use cases so that, it helps you, everyone, to understand on what's happening and what's the architecture of Salesforce is and how basically things are running around. So I really hope that it helped you all. Thank you so much, Desmond, for being such a wonderful moderator. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Katie, and that will end our presentation. Okay, we will see you again. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you all. Bye.